Hi everybody. It's Shelby here, and I just kind of wanted to reach out and let you guys know I apologize for the long gaps between videos. We have had a lot happen in our lives. So since our last video, we have packed up our house, which took a lot of effort on other people's parts, not really mine, because uh, as you can tell, I'm very pregnant and I shouldn't be lifting heavy things. But through the generosity of a lot of our neighbors and my parents mostly, we got our house in Logan packed up. And then we got all of that stuff up to Washington. And that was an arduous 10-hour trek. And that was the short version. My husband was driving his truck, and let's just say we left with 3 vehicles and got to Washington with 2 vehicles. And one of the vehicle that got stuck in the middle was my husband's truck, but eventually it made it all the way to Pullman. But it made his and my dad's day like a 16-hour trek rather than a 10-hour trek, which kind of sucks, but they got it all there. And then in Pullman, we got moved in. We figured out where we wanted everything. We have a room for ourselves, a room for the triplets, and a room for Lawrence. And then after about 10 days in Pullman, Lawrence and I moved down to Layton to be here with my parents because of the triplets. I have to be close to a hospital. So if I wasn't giving birth in Pullman, I can't give birth in Pullman. They don't have a NICU that has the resources that my babies will need. The closest NICU, the closest hospital I could give birth in would be in Spokane, which is an 80-mile drive one way. And it's gonna be winter, and I'm just not comfortable with that idea of having to go up there. And then I was talked to a lot about the doctors about how my babies are going to need to be in the NICU. Like, I should just expect every single one needs to be in the NICU. And if they're all in the NICU, I can't like manage tending my 2-year-old toddler and driving 80 miles every day to see my triplets who are in the NICU, and then one of them can come home at a time, which just means I'll have to take care of a newborn at home and then go take care of newborns in a hospital, and the distance is too large. Not to mention, just throw in the fact that Gideon has a heart condition that I don't think they could even manage in Spokane. They would have to fly him to Seattle, which is a 6-hour drive from Pullman, which is where my husband and I would be living. So too much distance, too much complications, too much stress for one person to handle, because all at that same time, my husband would be in vet school, which he wants to pass, and we want him to pass so that he can become a vet. So I'm living in Layton with my mom and dad. I'm 40 minutes away from the University of Utah, which is where I would give birth to the triplets. And then the University of Utah and Primary Children's Hospital is they're connected by a skywalk. So they could put baby A and baby C in the NICU in, what's it called? Pregnancy brain. In the University of Utah NICU, and then they could put Gideon in the NICU where he needs to be in Primary Children's. And I can see them all at once. I could walk across the skywalk pretty easily, and it just makes a lot more sense. And then I'm closer to home. I've got a support system, so if I do go into labor unexpectedly, my dad or my mom are available to watch Lawrence immediately. I don't have to figure out oh, which of my friends can watch my child for an undetermined amount of time. So we're here in Layton, and we're ready to go. Well, I haven't actually packed a go bag, but there's a plan in place. Gideon has gotten another fetal echo, which is something else I wanted to update on. So we moved in to Pullman, and then I moved down here to Layton with my parents and Lawrence. And the very next day, I had a fetal echo with Primary Children's Hospital, and they basically just confirmed his diagnosis of the tetralogy of Fallot with an absent pulmonary valve. And then I got to speak with more people on the team for Gideon. So I got to speak with the cardiac surgeon, well, the pediatric cardiac surgeon, who would actually be doing the surgery. And I got to talk to the cardiac physician who would be monitoring his case when he's not in surgery. And I got to talk to the neonatal doctor who was in charge of the NICUs, and she would be keeping Gideon alive for these other doctors to work on. And I also like they also provide a social worker for cases like ours, I guess, where it's high risk pregnancies, heart conditions. And this social worker, she just talks about like, oh, what types of resources are available for our family, what types of support groups are out there for parents with congenital heart disease kids, and they kind of like try to help you keep everything straight rather than just piling you with information about, oh, this is a whole new medical condition you need to now know about. Also, you're gonna have babies. Also, you're gonna have like all this stuff going on, like you need checkups and things. So they kind of help you keep things straight. And then there's also a nurse whose whole job is pretty much to just make sure that I don't have any questions about the actual condition of Gideon, which like I'm grateful that I got to like write the curriculum for and teach anatomy, because I haven't really had any questions about like what's going on with his heart. I understand pretty good about, you know, the structures and what's necessary and why they would be making those cuts, and that they have to. But they did change a little bit. So the first meeting we had with the team, the cardiac surgeon, the surgeon wasn't there. And so I asked him this time, like, when would you operate on Gideon? And I got a lot of, oh, it depends when they're born. So if they're born early, he's going to be smaller and weaker, and he's going to need to be in the NICU longer to gain enough weight, to get enough strength to actually have his chest cracked open, to be able to withstand the anesthesia, because like if he's too small, the anesthesia itself could kill him. It would just put him to sleep and he would never wake up. So if I give birth too soon, right, they have to wait longer to operate on him. So if I gave birth now, the surgeon probably wouldn't operate on him until he was 6 months old. If I give birth when they're like 36 or 37 weeks along, the surgeon would probably operate around like 4 months, which I was a little bit surprised by, because the cardiac physician, he had told me last time that they would try to get the surgery done in like a week, rather, or in a month. Like the first month of his life, basically, he'd have this surgery done. And so that completely rocked my world for a day or two, where I was like, okay, like I'm not going to be staying with my parents till Christmas. I'm going to be staying with them this whole semester, and then semester after Logan's whole 3rd year of vet school. We're not going to be there. He's going to have to do it alone up in Pullman, and I'll be down here with 2 out of my 3 babies and Lawrence, and then another baby in the hospital for months before he can even get the surgery. The cardiac surgeon did say, though, that the longer you wait to do the surgery, the less recovery time they need. So if you were 6 months old, it would take about 10 days for him to come home from the hospital. If you were younger, it would maybe take a couple weeks in the NICU still. So it's kind of like a toss-up on when do they come, and that really affects their care afterwards, because not only and I kind of wonder if the mistake the physician made was that he was treating my babies like they were normal babies who come at 40 weeks, because the one thing that they made really clear to me was that preemies have a lot of health conditions. The biggest thing being they don't know how to eat, and they don't know how to breathe, like, because lungs are the last to develop. And so they stay in the NICU pretty much until they learn how to eat and they learn how to breathe on their own. And that can take, like that depends on how early they're born, right? That can take a couple hours if they're born at like 37 weeks, or it could take a couple months if they're born like now, which they could be. Like I'm 30 weeks and 4 days along right now, and I can feel it, like the stress it has on my body. Like I've already had a couple contractions where like I can feel all of this tightening up, and my back gets a little sore, which like isn't super unusual in pregnancies, because like your body's preparing to push these babies out. That's not going to happen in my case. I'm going to get a C-section, but like naturally your body wants to practice the motion, and so like that's what Braxton Hicks are. So like 1 or 2 contractions is nothing to worry about. When they start coming, like 6 in an hour is what my doctor told me is when I need to go into the hospital. So I haven't had that happen to me yet. Keep your fingers crossed, knock on wood, say a prayer, anything you want to help me carry these babies as long as possible so that they have the best chance of being healthy, like so that Gideon can get his surgery without the complications of being a preemie baby as well. So that's kind of the update. I don't have very many ultrasound pictures because something about their ultrasound machine broke, and it's not sending the pictures to the phones. So they printed a couple of pictures off, and I'll get those on here, but I don't have as many as I usually do, which is fine because not every mom gets as many ultrasound pictures as I do. I get 3 times the amount, plus I go in and get my ultrasound done a lot more often. So that's about it for the update on the triplets. They are, so yeah, the news that it's gonna take longer to like before we can get up to Pullman is a little sad, but we're gonna have to pass through this time anyways. And I've got a great support system here. Like, I'm in the pool at my neighbor's house because I got here, and floating is really nice. Like, just being in water, the buoyancy lifts up my belly and it's no longer putting such a strain on my pelvis. And so I'm happy sitting here in this cold water. It's like 75 degrees and it's fine, like, because I'm not in pain right now. And they just happily agreed to let me come and use their pool whenever I wanted, which is perfect because it's just across the street. Or like today, another member of our community, a member of our church, she came by and dropped off bag after bag after bag of clothes, and she brought me boppy pillows, she brought me, a baby bouncer, a bumbo seat, anything that I could need or want for these triplets to help care for them. She even brought diapers, which was super kind of her, and she organized it all. She took an inventory and was like, this is how many onesies you have in the newborn size, and this is their color, and she did that for all of them, and she gave me sizes up to like 3T, which is super helpful because I need that. Because sometimes like people are like, oh, they had a baby, and they give you like the 0 to 3 month size, but then the baby keeps growing. So that was super kind of her. And as soon as I moved into the ward here, the church here, and I got assigned somebody to minister to me, and she immediately was like, you need a baby shower. Let's throw you a baby shower. So she's putting one together for me, and I was like, is there anything you need me to do? And she's like, no, just show up. And I'm just like so like grateful that like anywhere we go, we have a support system because we need it. And like I get to tell you guys all about our journey. So for those of you wondering about the stats of the triplets, right now they're all acting like they're not triplets. They're all about 3 pounds. They were all bang on I got my ultrasound a couple weeks ago. I'm sorry. Like with the move and with the stress of everything, it's just taken me a minute to get back up in front of the camera. But yeah, at like 28.5 weeks, they were all measuring straight on. They were all 3 pounds. They were all the right length. They had all the structures in their brains. Yeah, and I'm bigger than is average, but each triplet is a good size for how far they all are along in their gestational age. So all good news so far, except for Gideon's heart, but we already know about that, and we have a plan in place and a place to take him where he can be cared for. So that's about it with the update on the triplets. I'll try to include some pictures of like our Pullman house as well, because it's a nice place. We just don't get to use it for a minute. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. It was good to see you all, and I'll catch you next time.